Hey, what's up, all you Instacart shoppers out there? Chatty Economist back again after a long lull. I've been meaning to make this video discussing the state of Instacart for a while. You've probably seen me tease the thumbnail for this video a long time ago. Well, now I'm finally going to rant and rave about the absolute mess Instacart has become lately. Ready? Let's go. So as I see it, Instacart is caught in a perfect storm of bots, shopper saturation, and inept executives. Or maybe I should say, we the shoppers are the ones caught in the storm. Instacart, the company, seems to be doing just fine. In fact, they actually turned a profit for the first time ever. You think that would be a good thing for everybody, but things have never been worse for us shoppers. I don't even know where to begin. I guess I'll start with the bots. I had heard rumors of bots going back almost a year, but I had never seen anyone use one. I had never had anyone try to sell me one. Batches didn't disappear out of the queue in a flash, and up until recently, I'd been able to get by doing Instacart as my main gig. So I just assumed bots were an urban legend. Once the pandemic hit in March, veteran Instacart shoppers throughout Florida realized bots were real. People were sharing pictures and videos of the bots in action, plus ads of people trying to sell bots. We've also noticed batches started disappearing out of the queue in the blink of an eye. Yeah, batches had always gone pretty fast when Instacart switched from hours to on demand, but they would at least stay in the queue for a few seconds, maybe even a minute or two. Then overnight, everything started disappearing in a matter of milliseconds. Pretty much every Instacart shopper in Florida will tell you it was Easter weekend when Instacart was pretty much unusable. I was actually one of the first people on social media to sound the alarm about the invasion of the bot snatchers, as I like to call it. But a lot of people just laughed because they didn't think it was real. Fast forward 2 months, and now shoppers across the country blame bots because they can't get batches in their zone anymore. Even though Instacart has acknowledged their existence, I don't think bots are entirely responsible for the lack of batches nationwide. Which brings me to the second hurricane in this perfect storm: way too many shoppers. When the COVID-19 pandemic broke out and states started forcing people to stay home, there was a huge demand for Instacart. In fact, those first few weeks were great for me. I was making double what I usually make, and I was only working for Instacart. That was back in March, shortly before Instacart said they were going to hire 300,000 new shoppers to meet the massive customer demand. A few weeks later, they said they didn't hire enough people, so they announced plans to hire another 250,000 shoppers. Between the shoppers they already had and the shoppers they added since the virus, they were estimating they would have around 750,000 shoppers. That's equal to 0.2% of the entire population, or 2 in every 1,000 Americans. 750,000 people, it seems like a ridiculous number, so who knows if it's accurate. However, I have seen articles confirming that Instacart did hit their initial goal of 300,000 new shoppers, which also seems excessive. But since shoppers are independent contractors, not employees, it's understandable that Instacart would hire so many of us. Since we're not guaranteed work and we don't get benefits, having 100 shoppers in every zip code means there will always be someone willing to work a batch at a moment's notice. A lot of gig companies operate on this principle of flooding the market with contractors so the customer never has to wait too long for service. The best way to tell Instacart is more than saturated is to just look at the number of shoppers in your zone. When I first started around Christmas of 2018, my zone only had 180 shoppers. By the spring of 2019, it was up to 250, and by the end of the summer, it was about 340. It stayed at that size until the pandemic started. Last time I checked, my zone was up to 1,388 shoppers. That's an increase of 300%. That brings us back to the topic of bots. Even though they are real, I don't think bots are entirely to blame for the lack of batches. The real reason batches disappear so quickly is because there are dozens, maybe hundreds, maybe even thousands of people in your zone right now staring at their phones, and they're all swiping as quickly as possible when a batch pops up. From what I can gather, bots actually hack the Instacart API and pick out batches before they're even served up to the queue. So if there aren't any batches at all, it's probably due to bots. If there are batches but they get scooped up super quickly, it's probably due to shopper saturation. Now I know what you're asking. Why hasn't Instacart fixed this yet? But the question you should be asking is, can Instacart fix this, or even do they want to fix this? Which brings me to the final turd in this shitstorm, inept executives. Any shopper who's been with Instacart for a while has no doubt experienced a lot of glitches while using the shopper app. It lags constantly and it outright crashes at least once a week. There's a metric in the IT industry called availability, which indicates a service's uptime. A good availability is well over 99%, like 99.99999%. Anything under 99% is pretty lousy by industry standards, but I would estimate Instacart's availability at 98% or less. So why is such poor performance tolerated? The simplest answer is that the app developers suck at their jobs. After all, if amateur hackers have figured out how to beat Instacart with rather simplistic bots and scripts, how good can the professional app developers be? Are they incompetent or just apathetic? Believe it or not, I think the answer might be the latter. If you saw my interview with my cybersecurity professor, he said Instacart might not be in a rush to purge the bots because work is still getting done and they haven't really lost any money due to the bots. I've seen countless shoppers make this very same point. I certainly understand the rationale to this line of thinking. However, I find it difficult to believe that from a legal standpoint, Instacart is in the clear, especially since they have acknowledged the existence of bots, so they can't claim plausible deniability carte blanche. I just can't imagine any legal counsel telling Instacart board of directors not to worry because unauthorized shoppers are doing the work, so as long as the work's getting done, who cares? It's true that they have started implementing some security measures, like making shoppers take random selfies, but they have a long way to go before they completely clean things up. So what is it going to take to motivate Instacart? Shopper strikes worked in the past, but they have had zero impact in the last year. In fact, they might actually be counterproductive. Class action lawsuits are certainly a possibility, but they are expensive and time-consuming, plus the fact that the vast majority of shoppers waived their right to sue when they signed their onboarding contract. If you don't believe me, read section 9.7 of the shopper agreement that you signed. I think the only way Instacart will change their platform in favor of honest shoppers is if the government forces them to. It might take California's Attorney General or maybe the Federal Trade Commission to threaten them with an audit or a penalty of some sort. California is actually rather hostile towards big tech despite the presence of Silicon Valley, so they may go after Instacart just as they've gone after Uber and Lyft. And even if the government somehow manages to convince Instacart to purge the bots, this still doesn't address the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of unnecessary shoppers on this platform. Some states are starting to ease restrictions, but it could still be a few months until things are back to normal. I'm sure some of those 300,000 new shoppers will go back to their old jobs, but not all of them will. Customer demand is certainly going to decline when people aren't afraid of the grocery store anymore, although I think that's already started to happen. I hate to be cynical, but I think things are actually going to get worse before they get better. I mean, it might get better eventually, but I don't see things going back to the way things were when batches were readily available. Some markets are obviously better than others, so if you can open your shopper app and still accept high-paying batches with ease, you should be grateful for that. If bots haven't invaded your town, it's probably just a matter of time before they do. It sucks to end on such a downer, so let me know in the comments if you see a silver lining to this situation, because I sure don't. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.